Hey, what's up? Hey, so I wanted to talk about insulation in vans. There's a lot of debate out there on which insulation to use in a van, which insulations not to use in a van. Um, there's a lot of debate online about what the best insulation is, but these two insulations are probably the most commonly used insulations that I've seen people using in their van builds. So over here we've got the 3M Thinsulate, and over here we've got the Havelock wool, which is a sheep's wool. This is a synthetic. They both claim to do pretty much the same things. They're heat resistant, moisture resistant, absorb sound. So let's go ahead and see which one actually does what it say it will do. Okay, so the first test that we're going to run on these is to see how well the R value is. Havelock wool, the R value is 3.5 per inch on that. So the R value on these are pretty comparable, but I just wanted to run some heat on them and see which one maybe gets hotter, this, that type of thing, and see which one performs better. So I got my fire extinguisher here if anything goes wrong, but both of these do say that they are fire resistant, so shouldn't have any issues with that. So I'm just going to take this sheep's wool here. I'm just going to run some heat, and then we'll take a temperature on the backside here in a minute and see how hot it gets. So that's already getting pretty warm. I can feel that heat from the flame on my hand. We'll just run it for a minute or so, just see what the backside looks like as if it were in a wall. So that's pretty hot on my hand there. So let's go ahead and take a temperature on that. So let's see, this side, we're getting 120 degrees. You can see that. So about 100 degrees on that side. This is the opposite side. So we'll go ahead and see. So like 65 to 70 degrees on this backside. So that's pretty good. Let's try the 3M Thinsulate now. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it, generalize the heat. I'm gonna hold it about the same distance away and run it for about the same time. This was a slightly smaller piece, but we should be able to get an idea on the heat on it. Pretty warm on my hand already. It's getting hot. Getting real hot. So that's pretty hot to hold. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off and take a temperature reading on that. So let's see if we get roughly about the same. So yeah, about 128, slightly hotter, 100, 120. The backside, let's see, 67. So pretty close on that. 66, that's about what the Havelock wool was. So under heat, both those are performing about the same. Like I said, they're pretty similar in what they claim to do. So the R value on these is similar. So both of these insulations do claim to be moisture resistant. I'm going to take this water here and pour it onto these insulations, and then we'll take a moisture reading and see maybe on the front side what they are, and then also on the back side, see if any of that moisture. So here we have the sheep's wool. I'm going to pour a good amount on there. It's puddling up. That's probably more moisture than you'll see if you ever have it in a van, but possibly if you have a leak in your ceiling or something. So those are both pooled up. It's definitely soaked in. So you can see the moisture on that. Yeah, I don't know. That's let's see what this is. So running off So the Thinsulate runs off the insulation itself, whereas the sheep's wool, it just soaked right through, and it is just coming out the opposite side. So the Thinsulate held it, it beat it off and ran off. It does have this protective layer on the back, so obviously it's gonna be a lot harder for water to get through there, but it didn't even soak in, maybe a little bit onto the Thinsulate, but not much. So the sheep's wool, let's see if it'll just run off. So it does kind of beat off. Obviously, it's if you have an excessive amount in one spot, it probably will soak through like that. Um, but otherwise, it's going to beat off and run off, similar to the Thinsulate. The sheep's wool does, when it's wet, it definitely has a smell of a sheep. Okay, so got that water cleaned up. Now let's go to the opposite. Let's see. Both of these claim to be flame resistant and fire resistant, fireproof. The Havelock says up to 1100 degrees. This little torch gets up to, I think, around 600 degrees. So we'll be able to see just by torching these if they catch fire or if they resist the fire. So let's start with the Thinsulate, and we're just gonna torch a little bit of it. See if you can see that. So that it kind of melts it, a little hot, but more than anything, it just kind of melts the fibers. So yeah, definitely not catching fire. And I wonder if we can burn a hole through this. How hot it'll have to be. Do that. So even the backing is flame resistant. So the torch will burn a hole right through that, but it definitely doesn't catch fire. So let's now try the Havelock wool. So this again claims up to 1100 degrees that it is flame resistant. You can see that that's catching fire and smoking, but I think what they're saying is the sheep's wool extinguishes the fire. So if you have a fire and it starts to catch, it's going to extinguish it. But again, doesn't smell too great. I didn't notice the smell on this. No real smell as that burns, but this, you definitely get that burning smell. So let's see if we can burn a hole through this one and if it'll, yeah, definitely catches fire and then goes out. So I don't want to set off any smoke alarms in my shop, but this one I think will be a little bit harder to burn a flame through. It definitely just chars and extinguishes the fire before it will burn a hole through it. So they both are fire resistant. The Havelock definitely catches fire but extinguishes it. But I think overall in a van, they would both keep a fire from spreading too much. Obviously, you have other materials in wood that could catch fire, but these will definitely help mitigate the fire.